Should I start CPR? What's going on?
Shake it off, Marines! Clear the crash site. Go, go, go!
When I think of Halo 2, Outskirts is the mission that comes to my mind. Much like the second mission in Combat Evolved, we're thrown down from space and find ourselves scattered and confused. Welcome to Oddities. Here we take a look at some of my favourite moments, details and minutiae in games, so grab yourself a tea or a coffee and sit back as we explore together. Adaptability has always been a strength in humans, able to quickly regroup and assess after something has thrown a spanner in the works. And here in Outskirts, that adaptability is key in the strategy and choices of our heroes here. I've always loved how nonchalant everyone is here. Despite losing the Pelican and possibly several Marines, they dust themselves off and continue on. The mission comes first. Such a small detail, but it conveys that selflessness in our protagonists, instantly building a rapport with the audience, even if you haven't played the first Halo. Having been released in 2004, the imagery of Outskirts is drenched in that early 2000s representation of war in media. Vertical urban warfare with tight corners and intense pressure from all sides. It's suffocating in a way, as if there's no safe path to choose. Our first room is awesome. It looks like the Pelican has come down in a warehouse or garage of some kind, the walls kind of cushioning the impact. From here in this somewhat safe hovel, we can hear distant gunfire, artillery, radio chatter, confronting you with exactly how deep into the battle you are. If this was a garage or warehouse, perhaps these huge vents were ventilation apparatus of some kind of getting rid of all the fumes that come from these industrial places. I love the detail of this flickering light here, as if the city itself is just barely holding on. Then again, we do learn in ODST that the city having a mind of its own is not that far of a stretch. Of course, the classic grenade jump here to get to the top of the building. I remember when I was younger, I just couldn't get the timing right, but eventually I managed it and came across my very first skull in a Halo campaign. I've always loved little Easter eggs like this, almost as if it's a competition between you and the developers. You might think you've broken the game only to find they suspected you would try as such. And of course, the classic defense segment. This building is really cool with the tree in the middle here as the stairs wrap around it. Enemies will try and push through this main entrance here, fighting upwards as you use the architecture to outmaneuver them. Halo is at its best here, with the various enemy AIs trying to outfox you, coming in different waves that force the player to change up their strategy. You might grab Johnson's sniper rifle and head up to the roof, only to contend with the cannon of the Phantom. You could hunker down in the bottom here, acting as a bulkhead, letting the Marines pepper the enemies while you finish them off as they enter. But then you have to deal with the elites and their impeccable aim and dodging. I know some just jump out on the street here, using the wider space to skate around the plasma fire. But then the game throws drones at you that punish that sort of gameplay. So many choices and possibilities in such a small space, and it's just one of the things that make the original trilogy so great. I've always loved how far down the street you can go here, into this dark area. These parts aren't used in this segment really, but it gives that sense that the city is much bigger than what you can observe in these tight streets. And this little cubby here where the enemies spawn always gave me that same feeling empty Gmod maps do. Like I'm not really supposed to be here. And of course, the iconic moment the hunters smash through the door. I always thought of this piece as their theme song, strong but agile, kind of thumping through the gunfire. Moving onwards, we come to this alley here, and on the ground we can see 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 On the ground here we can see this little MRE of peach dessert. These could have fallen from a pelican or something, but I like to think these were part of civilian rations, a very common wartime occurrence, which a lot of war media doesn't really explore. War is more than fighting, it's manufacturing, research, espionage, supply lines, and of course, keeping the civilian population fed, safe and happy. Civilians are your ideological and economical foundation. They are the nation the army represents, or collection of colonies in the world of Halo. Your war will only go as far as the support for it does, even in a survival situation like this one with the Covenant. I'm sure there's plenty of political factions who would suppose surrendering to the Covenant to be the best course of action and the only way for humanity to perhaps survive in some way. This is why the UNSC would need to keep proving that fighting against these oppressors is effective and the only logical conclusion. Certainly not that hard when the Covenant aren't too worried about their own optics in the eyes of the human population. And here our Pelican picks up Sergeant Johnson and continues on. I like that this LZ is actually a section of road or highway that's fallen away. It looks as if these highways are somewhat modular, constructed with various interconnected slabs here. In these older graphics, it's kind of hard to tell if it's concrete or metal, so we'll switch to anniversary graphics here and take a look at them. It does indeed look like concrete or asphalt is still used in the Halo timeline. I love the detail here of clothes still drying on these balconies here. Definitely shows just how quickly civilians would have had to be evacuated. No time to pack up, and now their worlds are kind of frozen in time in a sense. I do love how if you continue up this road here, it kind of wraps back around and we come across this hidey hole of the Jackal snipers and get to see their little line of fire they had set up here. And now we enter Hotel Zanzibar and experience an almost short horror sequence. Torches on as we traverse this darkened hallway, wailing rising in the soundtrack.
Stay out of sight.
It kind of puts you in the shoes of an ordinary person for a second. No longer a super soldier, and you can visualize just how terrifying these Covenant would be as you try to escape. And then we have the reveal of this huge river and a bridge off in the distance shrouded by fog or ash. Mombasa town itself is actually an island in reality, much like Manhattan. Its CBD is centered around Mombasa Island, and this is what I think we're looking at here. It's hard to say exactly where we are, but we're either looking at Mombasa from across Tudor Creek or Port Wrights, the rivers that kind of run around Mombasa Island. Perhaps this is Nyali Bridge, having been upgraded here in the far future. I can't think of another sci-fi series set in Kenya, but goddamn if I don't want more African countries represented in science fiction. I always thought these Covenant turret defensive fixture thingies look like they've been ripped right out of an RTS game. I love this structure on the beach here. It looks like a permanent fixture, so perhaps this is left over from some old battle where the threat of an aquatic or amphibious assault on this beach was a possibility.
I've been analyzing the Covenant tactical chatter. They're surprised, confused. I don't think they expected us to be here. Not you and me. All of us. Humanity on Earth. Odd, I know, but it does help explain why they came here with such a small fleet.
I love how Cortana says here that the Covenant are just as confused as us. It's such a unique setup for a battle, with both sides kind of just winging it, as neither expected the other to show up. And here we catch a glimpse of the Scarab. I know we've already seen it in the opening cutscene, but it's kind of given the reverence of a horror movie monster here, only catching a small view of its beam and its huge leg as it trudges past. How many people do you think missed their turn off here? The road lines aren't super easy to follow. And here we find this convoy of shadows. I've always felt a bit bad for the shadow. This is the only time in the entire series we see them just trucking along down here. They don't even seem to notice you really, besides the turret on top. They even showed up in the instruction booklet that came with the original Halo 2, but yeah, this is their only moment to shine, really. And here we come to the end, and onward to another great mission. I'll definitely be making a video on Metropolis soon, as these two missions almost go hand in hand as we kind of stalk the Scarab here. Thanks for watching and for the support on the last few videos. I love just hanging out and chatting about awesome games, and it's been gratifying to see how much you guys have been enjoying them. Look forward to more, and I'll see you later. Cheers.